Hello, Detroit! Drunken Master Paul here, and why am I giving a shout out to the Motor City? Well, the other night I was kind of finger banging my way through social media and got caught up in a Twitter conversation with someone named Ty. And he's from Detroit, and he asked me if I could come up with a cocktail for that city. And I thought, well, hell's donkeys, man. I've never been asked to do a cocktail for an entire metropolis, so I said, sure, why not? So I came up with this one called the Rusty Bumper. Now, I've never personally been to Detroit, or even Michigan for that matter, but they both kind of have the special place in my heart. Primarily because, you know, Detroit is Motor City, and I'm kind of an amateur gearhead, so cars, baby! And then, of course, music, Motown, duh, all the great music out of Detroit. So, how do you make a rusty bumper besides leaving your '64 Impala in the backyard for about 25 years in Seattle? Well, when I was talking to Ty, I asked him what he liked to drink, and he said he's a Jack and Coke kind of guy, and that'll be a really boring and short video. So for a rusty bumper, I'm kind of doing a take on the rusty nail, and since Ty likes Jack, we'll use Jack for the booze of choice. Now for the rusty part, taking a cue from the rusty nail, we're going to use Drambuie. If you don't know what Drambuie is and think it's something you tie a Scottish boat up to, you're kind of close. It is, and I quote, all right, should I do this with the bad Scottish accent? All right, okay. A secret recipe of herbs, spices, and heather honey, crafted with aged Scotch whiskey. Okay, we'll go with that. First of all, we're gonna need a Monkey Bar rocks glass with some rocks. Then we're gonna put in our Jack. No, I'm not measuring. Detroit, man! And then equal part of Drambuie. Now, to really Detroit this up a bit, I'm gonna add one more thing. And during this conversation with Ty, some guy named Mike jumps in and said, dude, if you're gonna do a Detroit cocktail, you've got to include some Verner's Ginger Ale. So I did! And just to add a little spice to it, let's go ahead and put in some bitters, because I like bitters. A little bit of a stir. And there you go. That's a rusty bumper. Jack, Drambuie, Verner's Ginger Ale, a little bit of bitters. Give it a stir, give it a sip. It's actually really good. You know, honestly, when Mike suggested the ginger ale on top of this, I went, I'm not so sure about that, but it actually works really well. The Drambuie and the sweetness of the ginger ale mix really well, and then of course you've got the Jack in the background. Jack in the background. If it's a Detroit cocktail, you need a Jack in there because it's a car thing, and you gotta have a Jack in case you have a blowout, and then take your wife home and put her up on the... No, this isn't working at all, is it? So there's the rocks version. Let's do a Martini version too. It'll be fun, you'll love it. Okay, let's start with my favorite shaker and some ice. Boom. Now it's gonna be pretty much the same as the rocks version of the Rusty Bumper with one change. Now check this out. First we're gonna do, of course, a little Jack. And the Drambuie. And then, sorry, I'm not gonna put a fizzy thing in here. I'm not gonna put the ginger ale in. We're not using Verner's, but we're gonna use a ginger vodka instead. And I'm gonna use Yazzie ginger vodka. It's one of my favorite vodkas, and it's got a dragon on the bottle. So add about the same amount of the Yazzie. Yeah, and we're gonna go ahead and add the bitters too. I know it's bitters and vodka, but you know, at this point there's no turning back. Nobody cares. Nobody's watching this. Only Ty and Mike are watching this. Hi guys, how's it going? So, lit it up and shake it up. So I know I'm shaking whiskey in this one. I know I've said before you don't shake whiskey, but in this case we got so many things going on with the whiskey and the drambuie and the ginger that I don't think it's really going to matter if I shake this as opposed to stirring it. So I'm shaking it. My channel, sue me. We have our martini glass and simply pour it straight up. And there you go, the Rusty Bumper Martini. For a garnish, you just add your Detroit attitude. Like I said with the ginger ale, I didn't expect this to work. But, you know, I channeled my inner Detroit. I figured, fuck it, I'm just gonna go for it and give it a shot and just make this work. And it does, it's actually really good. So you've got a Rusty Bumper cocktail that's a little more top shelf when you're, you know, gonna wear your really nice t-shirts out. And there you go, the Rusty Bumper, a custom chopped and channeled cocktail from DMP to the city of Detroit on behalf of Ty and Mike. Thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and Detroit, I hope to visit you one day, and when I do, we are gonna race between the lights to get a Rusty Bumper and rock. Cheers. In Detroit, Rock City, wow!